The history of science would appear totally different today were the book collection of Alexandria with us to this day. And third, even where it was not lost, much of it remains a mystery. Undeciphered still are writings at Easter Island, tablets at Mohenjo-Daro in Pakistan, and Mayan scripts. Some finds will remain unsolved forever. There are no inscriptions awaiting us at Tiahuanaco or Malku Piki. There were some museum relics whose significance may have eluded us. A methodical re-examination of pieces labeled art objects, cult objects, and unidentified objects could yield much new data in the future. So would a systematic exploration of the museum vaults today. It is a well-known fact that museums are in the habit of burying objects that do not coincide with current theories or political ideologies, or that are not beautiful to look at. The vaults of the Smithsonian Institution and the Museum of Prehistory of Saint Germain are full of crates of incomprehensible objects that nobody is studying and nobody can recognize at first sight. So could it be that many objects that we have discovered really do have a purpose that we simply do not yet understand? The ancients may have achieved results similar to ours by quite different processes. For instance, look at what happened to German technology. German technology diverged tremendously from that of the other countries in the world in the 1930s in just 12 years, from 1933 to 1945, when Germany was progressively isolated from the rest of the world. Then again, is it possible that some of the antediluvian artifacts that we have found cannot yet be identified, simply because they are still far ahead of our technology today? So a point to remember, as any technology advances, its methods and equipment do not become more complex, they become simplified. Take, for example, printed circuits, silicon chips. Such equipment may not be recognizable to a civilization of inferior knowledge. Computer chips, for instance, would not be recognizable by a civilization on Borneo, for instance. The point is, we may be looking at objects, quite exciting objects, in fact, without even recognizing them. Who would have expected that items in Baghdad in the museum, long labeled as ritual objects, would have to be components of batteries? Now, do you see what I mean? When they were first discovered in 1885, nobody knew what a battery looked like. It wasn't until 1969 that those batteries in the Museum of Baghdad were recognized for what they were and then identified as batteries. That tells us that electricity was known. Electroplating was known. We know that from metallurgical objects today. Now here's a tantalizing thought. Other relics still await discovery. Some authentic and incredibly ancient documents are known to be safely locked away. You and I may never see them. These forbidden treasures are known to be concealed in 4 places. First, in the catacombs beneath the Potala in Lhasa, Tibet. The vaults in the Vatican Library, to which even the Pope does not have access. In Morocco, where Muslim leaders are fiercely opposed to making them public. And a secret place known to a few initiated rabbis, believed to be in Spain. But that isn't all. There must be numerous lost cities yet to be discovered. Hold it, I hear you say. That's overdoing things, isn't it? An occasional ruin, maybe, but numerous lost cities? There aren't any unknown areas in this day and age. But on the contrary, there are many totally unexplored areas left about. Quite a lot of things occur in and out of the way corners of the world, and some not so out of the way, that most persons have never heard of. Still not explored from the ground are immense expanses of the interior of Central and South America, New Guinea, Asia, and Australia. And although Europeans have lived and worked in India for several centuries, building bridges, railways, and modern cities, the jungles have scarcely been touched. There are remote villages that have never seen a white man in India today. In the trackless Central Australian desert, a structure from an unknown civilization was discovered when vehicles from a nearby atomic test site drove into it purely by accident. Now, what you shall see in Part 2 is just a hint of what still awaits us in the desert, the jungle, and the ocean. The largest unexplored jungle area in the world is the Amazon basin. This region is so little known that a river tributary, 200 miles long, was only recently discovered, and then only by satellite. The Amazon system comprises 50,000 miles of navigable trunk rivers and an estimated 16,000 tributaries. The jungle on each side of the rivers is almost totally impenetrable, at least for Europeans. Now, I know of settlers who have lived on riverbank clearings for 40 years and never ventured more than a mile back into the jungle. There now follows about 1,000 of the more interesting exhibits, yet these can never be more than a tantalizing peep at this astonishing unknown world shrouded in opaque clouds of mystery. The Amazon contains some of the most solid jungles and hostile environments to be found anywhere. And surprisingly, this now mysterious region was once the center of a very intense and highly active population. Large cities flourished there, with high-volume commercial traffic to the Andes. And despite satellite technology, we face almost insurmountable problems in locating many of these remains. A pilot over the Amazon may spy towers, villages, or ruins and pinpoint them and report them. A few days later, someone setting out to verify the data will find that they've already vanished, swallowed again by the jungle, since that forest fire or whim of nature or weather that exposed them in the first place. Carl Brugger mentions that the Trans-Amazonia spur of the road between Manaus and Barcelos on the lower Rio Negro, built in 1971, was overgrown by tropical vegetation within 1 year. The technicians even had difficulties locating the approximate direction of the road. It's not surprising, therefore, that there are no more signs of white cities. Again, there are vast stretches where the fog never lifts, and in others it doesn't clear until late afternoon. There's an area in eastern Ecuador from which natives have been carrying out thousands of artifacts belonging to what they described as a giant pyramid and immense deserted cities. So don't get carried away. This is a forbidden region. Local Indians still massacre inquisitive outsiders. Intruders in the Mato Grosso region of Brazil can expect a similar welcome. Yes, you can believe it. Documented accounts are numerous, and once an entire patrol of 1,400 vanished in the jungle without a trace. This trackless, unexplored green hell swallows visitors, and the ruins clasp their secrets. So think of it. 5,000 years ago, when our forefathers were supposed to be existing in caves or crude settlements, there were highly advanced cultures, and they reached over the entire world, from Siberia to Antarctica, from Greenland to Africa. This super world vanished, and it vanished so completely that we thought that it never existed. It's not unlikely that a whole empire could disappear like this. The more advanced the culture, the more easily it could vanish without a trace. If it were so advanced, then its powers of destruction must also have been enormously advanced. But more on that later. What an epic. The wonder is that despite wholesale obliteration of the evidence, there are still many thousands of pieces that do survive, written records, oral traditions, and physical remains. So let's take a look at some of these physical remains again. We've been looking at about 19 of these. Remember, there's geography, astronomy, cosmology, mathematics, metallurgy, large-scale construction, construction techniques, social organization, engineering, mechanical devices, everyday items, clothing, art, medicine, flight, space travel, ancient science, civilization, electricity, and weaponry. There are 969 sites around the world where these types of artifacts from civilization, yes, indeed, advanced civilizations, with space travel, flight, electricity, that we have discovered and that we know about today. Let's take a look at one. Metallurgy. There are 44 sites or examples of advanced metallurgy technology in the world today that is hidden or suppressed or just plain misunderstood. So on page 131, we have metallurgy. Let me flip over here to page 131. The Sad Fate of the Gold Gardens, Chapter 14. 44 examples of metallurgy. When the Spanish conquerors entered Peru, they came upon an island near Puna, P-U-N-A, on which was a royal garden, so astonishing it might have come out of a fairy tale. Every living thing was reproduced in gold and silver models. Trees, even to the roots, and lesser plants with leaves, flowers, and fruit, fashioned in natural size and style, some ready to sprout, others half-grown or in full blossom. Golden birds sat perched on silver trees, as if singing, and while others were flying and sucking honey from flowers. Whole fields of maize were imitated, roots, stalks, flowers, and the cob. The beard of the husk in gold, the rest in silver. Other plants were similarly treated. A flower or anything of a yellow tint in real life was done in gold. The other parts were done in silver. And from the trees hung nuggets of fruit. Nothing remained uncopied. Rabbits, foxes, mice, lizards, lions, tigers, stags, snakes, all were set in their natural surroundings to enhance reality.